there, Stampers. This is Linda Schmidt with Stampin' with the Houndz. Thanks for joining me today. I have a fun fold today. This was from my fun fold challenge that I had posted in my Stampin' with the VIP Houndz Facebook group page, where I asked people to challenge me with some fun folds if they want to learn. And it's also some that I've never done before sometimes. So the one we're going to be doing today, it's called the Tuxedo Box Card. And it's been around for a while, but there's all these different, they're larger sizes. And I played around. This one, I'll be honest, this one really did kind of challenge me. So thank you, Monica, who gave me this challenge. But so the first few that I did, they were the larger size. And these would fit into a 5x7 envelope. So like I said, it's a fairly large card when you compare it, to the one that we're going to do today, which I did figure it out to fit it in as an A2 envelope. So it'd be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 at the finished size. But again, these are, so it's called the Tuxedo. So that's kind of where it gets the little flaps here. And then the box part, it comes in. So if you kind of squish this together, I just have to, got a little caught here. There's little brackets that these window sheets basically are, the pop-up pieces are being supported by those window sheets. And so you can do as many, little pop-ups as you want, but it is kind of a neat display piece that you can do. And it folds flat. So when you are making it, you don't want to go above where that point is, because that is where it's got to fit into the envelope. So just make sure, I always have an envelope nearby as I'm kind of putting these in, and I sometimes just kind of spot check just to make sure I'm not getting too big. But again, this is, the larger size. So this is one I'm giving to Jeff. That was his Valentine's, or upcoming Valentine's. And then this one I kind of changed the brackets a little bit. I was just using, because I was really struggling with those brackets. Like the instructions that I found, I don't know. I don't know if I just didn't quite get what they were doing. So I kind of did my own little thing when it comes to the brackets. So here's just another kind of fun little birthday one. Again, it's the larger size one on it. And then I, did some searching, and because I wanted it smaller. So then the other ones that I found, it was actually a lady in, I think, Australia. I feel like it was Creative Gems. I think that's who I got some of these dimensions from. And I did tweak them a little bit still. So these are what I would call an A4. So it's still a little bit taller than the A2. Just a smidge, like 1/4 inch basically on it. So again, you just need to get like an A4 envelope, and that would still mail normal. But so these are some of my other ones that I had done in that A4 size. And this is the one, here. So these, you can kind of see, let's see if the camera will focus in. So there's 2 brackets, and they're actually adhered more to like the left side of the card. And it was, I don't know why I was struggling, but I just did not like how I just struggled with trying to get those to align or measure. I don't know. Or it was more like assembling them. I don't know what my problem was, but these are just some that I did. And again, you can either adhere these down if you want, or just leave them kind of open and stuff. But I was just kind of playing around with some retired cardstock and stuff. This one is current. This is using some of the new products that are in the 2026 mini catalog. So this is kind of like that Rock and Vine embossing folder, which is really pretty. It's a nice 3D one. And then this is some of the new designer series paper. And then I think it was like Greenery Lane is the name of the, Greenery Lane, which is a new stamp set and die that is available in that mini catalog. And then the paper as well. So, but again, this one, I kind of had that where it was more of that little square, or those 2 brackets on there. And I think I got a little too busy on this one, but, and then again, I just kind of decorated the back. So these were, like I said, I needed a retirement card. And so this one, I kind of changed it now. When you look inside, the brackets now, and this one I only did really the one, because I did this water going across. So it's actually like adhered to the to these points, because I wanted it to look like water. So this is like for one of my coworkers. She's actually retiring this week. So I had to make a little retirement card for her. But that's another kind of, you know, fun one. So then the other ones I had, these are just some Valentine's Day. So this one, again, if you don't have the window sheets, because I was at a friend's house when I made this one and I forgot my window sheets. So you can just use cardstock. I did do a little bit of vellum in this one. And then here I did attach my flaps down on that. And then I did a little bow and stuff. So it's, you know, there's a lot of variations that you can do on this fold. But again, these are all the A4 sizes. So again, I'm doing the brackets more in the center. If you can kind of see how they're attached. I'm trying to wait for the camera to focus in there. Kind of like that. That's probably a better shot of it. How they're just kind of tabs attached to that center. And that's what I found was a little bit easier to do it. And then you can also like pop up stuff in the background on dimensionals and then kind of do your window sheets. And again, like on some of the window sheets, I did do a couple different things on it. So you can do multiple things on that window sheet too to kind of give it that little floating look on it. And then I do like to decorate because you're going to have some pieces left over. And so I kind of decorated the underneath. And then I also use up some of my excess, you know, from when I'm cutting these pieces, you'll get extra pieces. So I decided I would just decorate the back as well on it. So we are going to be doing a Valentine's Day card today, and I'm going to be showing you the A2 size. So again, it's just a little bit shorter than the A4 one on it. And it's very similar measurements. There's a few things you've got to adjust. Obviously, you know, like some of these pieces, but for the most part, I think I figured it out. So I was quite proud of myself. But so we're going to do a Valentine's Day. This is I was just using some retired sets that I have. So also, instead of doing a window sheet, because I kind of did it on this one too, you can actually do a die cut and have that be your piece that pops up. So like, for example, like this cone flower, I did that one as my pop-up, and then I just did a window sheet on my butterfly. So you can just keep it simple and do it that way too. So again, there's that. And then just kind of decorating the back on there. So the same thing I did here on the mailbox. That mailbox is one pop-up. Oh, sorry, I'm waiting for it to, there we go. I'm waiting for it to focus in. And then I did a window sheet on these other ones for like the birds, the envelopes, and then that little saying. And then these I just did dimensionals, and they're just attached to the back. So there's a bunch of ways that you can do, you know, the decorating and stuff. And then again, I'm just using those leftover pieces. And then I do sometimes like to do just a full sheet, and I'm going across versus, where's my other one? Versus doing the two strips. So I'll show you, we're going to be doing this version of it today, but otherwise you would just trim this a little bit, a 1/4 of an inch narrower if you wanted the two panels. But I wanted this Happy Valentine's Day to be all the way across, so I just did it that way on it. So, but anyway, they are, you know, it's, like I said, it was kind of, I don't know, I just struggled with it, but I finally got it. So we're going to get started. So like I said, we are going to be doing the A2 version. Now I do have, and I think when I did in my Facebook group page, this is actually, I'm going to write this on here. This is the A4. This is the A4 size. So instead of being 5.5, it's 5 7/8. And then there's these little measurements are adjusted, but this is one I had posted originally. I will do this one for the A2 in my Facebook group page. I will post this template, but I highly recommend you get some scratch paper and do a template, because it's the cutting that you really want to pay attention to. The scoring is fairly easy, but it's just making sure you're cutting in the right spots, because I can't tell you how many times I cut here instead of over here and messed it up and stuff. But so this is the A2 version. It's the same as the A4 when it comes to our main score lines going across. So it's going to be that 1/2 inch, 2.5, 4.5, 6.5. Those stay the same. And then I'm going to show you my way of how I'm marking, you know, these two, just because it was a little bit easier for me than what the instructions that I had seen posted online previously. So for your supplies, as I said, you're going to need a piece of, your card base is going to be 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm just going to do Whisper White. Then you're going to need, and what I'm calling, this is the inside designer series paper. This is the front designer series paper. And then, as I said, as you're cutting these, you're going to get those triangle pieces that you can use here, you know, or on the back, but you do have to trim them down like 1/8 of an inch just so that they fit better. So the inside DSP, you need 2 of them, and those are going to be, so it's the same, and this length you can make it longer if you want to. Because I've got my brackets, I was like, why go all the way down, because it's going to be covered up by those brackets anyway. So I just cut mine down to 4.25. You can go 4 too for the length. That works as well, but I wanted it just a little bit longer just in case I messed up. And then, so 1.75 by 4.25. And again, you're going to need 2 of them. And then we're going to mark, and we're going to cut these diagonally. Then for your front DSP, so again, you're going to need 2 pieces, and these are going to be 1.75 by 3. So this is where it gets a little bit, these are going to be shorter than what the A4 version was, you know, because it's not as, this part here is shorter now. So 2 of those, 1.75 by 3. And then I just do this as an extra, just because if I don't like the underside pattern of my paper, you basically need a 1 5/8 inch square that you're going to cut in half diagonally. And those are for the flaps. But like I said before, you do get triangles left over from these pieces. But again, if you don't like what's on the underside, I just cut an extra one just to have on hand in case I don't like it. Then your brackets, so these are going to be the pieces that your pop-ups are attaching to. And these I made a little bit narrower than what the A4 size was, because these were like, I think, 1/2 inch. Or no, these were, I think, 3/4 of an inch or 5/8, something like that. A little bit wider. So I made mine a little bit narrower so they fit. And you're going to, one of them is going to be 1/2 inch by 4, and another one's going to be 1/2 inch by 3. And then we just score 1/2 inch on either side to make it so it folds so you have the tabs. So we need that for scoring. And then on the back, I like to use the 2-tone cardstock because it's a little bit lighter weight. And again, because I'm going to be folding this instead of cutting 2 separate pieces, it's going to be 3.25 by 3.75, and then, I'm sorry, 3.75 by 3.25, and then you're going to score it in half, and that'll go on the back of your card. But I'm going to stamp it first before I do any of my scoring. And then for your window sheets, these really can be as long as you want. I mean, I just basically just cut so that they're 1/2 inch wide, and I think I started off like around 5.25 and for length. But again, you're going to be adjusting the length on these based on how you do your pop-ups. But I like the 1/2 inch wide. It seemed to work. And the Stampin' Up! Window sheets, I think, are the best because they're a little bit thicker than some of the other kind of window sheets or acetate that I've seen on the market. So, okay, so we're going to get started with the scoring. And the marking, basically making the template. I just want to make sure, and then we're going to get these out because I'm going to have to cut these as well. So you're going to keep your brackets, have your brackets handy, your two DSP that are for the inside and outside. We're going to keep those handy because we're going to have to cut those. And then you're going to need your scoring tool and a ruler if you don't have a Simply Score tool, or your paper trimmer. But I always like to use my scoring. Okay. And like I said, I always like to have my template handy so I don't mess up. All right, so first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna make those long perpendicular score lines. So you're going to be scoring at a 1/2 inch. So on the long side, we're going to score at a 1/2 inch. We're going to do 2 1/2, 4 1/2, and 6 1/2. Okay, now what I like to do is where that 1/2 inch tab is, we're going to take our cardstock and we're going to rotate it. So now that 1/2 inch part is at the top of our scoring tool. And now what we're going to do is we're going to, at the 3 3/8 mark, we are going to score down to the second score line. So I don't know if you can see this. So here's the first score line, and then here's the second score line. So right at the 3 3/8, I'm going to go, here's my first score line, and then we're going to stop down here at the second score line. Okay? Then what you want to do, I know this seems a little weird, but this is how it works for me. Take this tab, fold it so that it is like a mountain fold, put that up against your top of your scoring ruler here, and we're going to make a mark at 1 3/8 on this. Basically, it's the second score line, but since I folded it, it's the edge. So we're going to make a mark at 1 3/8. And that is where I am lining up when I go to score diagonally. I'm hitting this point and the center to get that diagonal. If you would have done this 1 7/8, your triangle is lopsided, basically. But that 1 7/8 mark, I do kind of like to mark it as well. Actually, it'll be marked at the edge. So then unfold it. And really, you don't have to do this one, but I just make a little mark. And that is basically doing where I know to cut that little diagonal on it. So that's that 1 7/8. So when I go to cut, I know I'm going down to here, and then I'm cutting over to that mark to make this tab. That's kind of where I got that. So again, we're going to make that mark at 1 3/8 on that second score line, and then we're going to do another mark on the edge at 1 7/8. Then we're going to rotate it, get to the other short side. So now this side, we need to make sure at the 2 1/8, we are going to score down to the first score line and stop. Because now we've made this line and that line. And now we need to know where our triangle needs to be met. So we're going to make a mark at 4 1/8. And this way now, when I go to score diagonally, I'm going to go from this center down to this mark when I'm scoring diagonally. And it's going to intersect those other score lines. So to score diagonally, and this is, again, I'm going to tuck this under because I need to have this mark be, and I may have to move my trimmer up here a little bit so you can stay in camera. So on my scoring thing, I took a Sharpie and drew like a straight line so that I know how to line up. So I'm staying in camera here. So I'm basically, I need to sit down so I can see better. When you're doing this, knowing that your stylus, you know, when it comes in, you want it to hit like on the outside edge of where that score line is, if that makes sense, so that it's not off-centered. So I'm lining up this point where that middle score line was and where my tick mark is. That's lined up here. And then I also sometimes just do a quick spot check with a ruler to make sure that when I go to score, I'm intersecting that score line. So that looks pretty good. I just want to make sure. Just going to do another quick spot check just to make sure I'm going to be hitting. Yes, and that looks good. Okay, so now we've got, this is that middle score line. And then I'm scoring, I'm going to go right through, I'm intersecting those other score lines, and then I'm going to score all the way down. And now I'm going to untuck this and score down. So the reason why you need this one is you're lining up this point to the center, not this point to the center. Because if you did this one, believe me, when you're doing it, tell me, it did not work for me. This is the only way that worked for me. I don't know why. Okay, now we're gonna do the exact same thing. So now we're taking the center and we're gonna score down to our mark that we did on that other side. So again, we're gonna have this in the center, and then we're gonna line up where that tick mark is. And then again, I like to double check just to make sure that when I go to score, that I'm going to intersect, and this is off just a little bit. So I'm going to just tilt it this way. Okay, that's going to hit then. All right, so now we're going to score diagonally. Okay, so now basically, I don't know if you can see these, we have got, there's our little triangle, that's our flap that's going to fold down. This section here we cut out. Then when we get over to the right side, you're going to cut diagonally down to where this first score line was, and then you're going to cut this here to make our triangle flap. We're going to cut down, and then we're going to cut this little tab so that this comes off, this square with the 1/2-inch tab comes off, and then this 1/2-inch section here comes off that has that little diagonal on it. And so this is where I like to have my my diagram handy when I'm cutting. So you can either, I mean, I've done it both ways. If you've got a really good pair of like sharp scissors that are long, which I think I'm going to actually do that for this video, I think, instead of. Just got to find my better scissors here. Oh yeah, these will have to work. Let me just wipe the gunk off of them here. Okay. Okay. So I just because this is the side I feel like where the 1/2 inch tab is. This is the one where I feel like this is where I always mess up the most. So I want to get this one done. So I'm going to start here where that little tick mark is. I'm going to cut up to this line, and then I'm going to cut straight up, and then I'm going to come over because I'm making that triangle flap. So again, we're going to cut diagonal. And when you go to cut, let's see if it'll pick it up. I'm cutting more on this side of the score line, not in the middle, because you kind of, if you cut in the middle, you'll get that frayed kind of look from the paper. So we're going to cut right up to that tick mark. Now we need to come up to that first score line. And then we're going to cut over. And again, you can use your paper trimmer. I just thought it might be a little bit easier just to show the scissors. But you certainly can do your paper trimmer. Just be really aware of where you're cutting. Okay, so now we've done this line. Now we're going to cut from here up diagonally to the center point. And this is where I think I may, just because I want to make sure this is really straight. So I'm going to make sure my score line is right in my cutting groove. That looks good. And I'm not going to start at the top, just because with the point sometimes you can it frays. So now we're going to come down here and we're going to stop right at that first score line. So on my paper trimmer, I've got this little line. I know to stop right when I hit that center. So now you've got from that right side that had that 1/2 inch tab, all of this has now come off. Now you can trim this off and then basically I think take like 1/8 of an inch off of this edge. And then if you want to run this through an embossing folder, you can then use that, you know, in your front if you wanted to. But you have to adjust the size because it's a little too wide. But for now, we're just going to put that over here because I don't need it. So that's our right side. I'm going to erase my tick marks, my little pencil marks here. Okay, so now we're going to cut our left side. So here, we are going to start and we're going to cut that little straight line, and then we're going to cut up diagonally to the center. So again, we need to make, this is going to be our triangle flap. So same thing, kind of cut. So I'm cutting more at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. More of the bottom of the score line. And then I'm going to stop right when I get to that part, and then I'm going to come up and cut diagonally. And again, I'm just going to do this on the paper trimmer because I want this to be straight. I don't trust myself. Okay, and that is lined up in the blade. And again, I'm going to start not at the edge, and I'm going to go up, and then I'll come down, and I'm going to stop right where that first score line was. Just cut that just a little bit. There we go. So again, this section, you just need to trim it, you know, probably on the bottom and then a little bit on the side, because it has that score line. That's why I said run it through an embossing folder. And then you could use that on the front of your card if you wanted to. All right, so we're gonna remove our pencil lines. Now, from here, you can either have the tab be on the right, you can flip it over and have the tab on the left. It doesn't matter at this point. I've done it both ways. So, but that is now lined up with our pattern that we did. So I will let you, if you want to, take a quick screenshot of the template. And then again, I'll post a picture of this, and I'll kind of put up my little instructions and stuff in my group page. Oh, we got to cut our paper, our pattern paper. Okay, so we're going to set this aside for now. Now let's get our, let's just do our brackets. These are really easy. We just need to make little 1/2-inch score lines on either side of the brackets. So again, these were 1/2 inch by 4. I'm just going to score at 1/2 inch on either side just to make, and then I fold these both in the same way, put glue on those little parts, and then this becomes your bracket. I was seeing, they were doing it like a Z, I don't know. Like I said, the other way that I've seen, I struggled with it. So I'm trying to make it easier for all of you. So again, 1/2 inch. And again, you can adjust this. It doesn't have to be 1/2 inch. You could do like 3/8, you know, if you wanted to go a little bit narrower, if you wanted this piece to be longer. And then that becomes your other bracket. So we'll just set those aside for now. All right. And then for the designer series paper, so you can, I've done it both ways, but sometimes depending on how you cut your triangle, I've got another little trick to show you. So let's do, so this one I think I'm going to have to now fold. I want this on here. So when I go to fold this, I want to make sure that's in there. Actually, I'm going to flip this around here because I want my score line going the other way. I'm just scoring on the opposite side because I want to fold it in this way. So I have my tab on my left. I'm just going to bring this in, and I want to make sure that when I'm folding this in half, that is meeting in the middle, you know. Otherwise, your top part of your card, it'll look crooked. Okay, so that comes in like a valley. Then you're going to bring where that first score line is. We're going to bring these in as a valley, and then so here, see, I've got a little bit of a overhang, and that's because the way I cut, I must not have been aligned up here. All right, my cutting was off a little bit, but it'll work. We'll get it. I'll trim it later here. Okay, so now we're going to bring this back. And this is where sometimes, see where that's why, because I cut down too far on this part of it. You have to force this a little bit to get it to the edge. Yeah, so see how I'm a little overhanging? So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to trim from here to here a little bit more, just so that I don't have that overhang. And this is where, when you start doing this, this is where your paper then sometimes you'll have to adjust your designer series paper just a titch, but I just don't want this frizzy, my little frayed edge here. So I just took off like super, super tiny little piece, just so that I didn't have that frayed corner. Okay, and then that comes down. See, this is where I struggle with this card. It's not my favorite fold, I will say that. I mean, it's a cool fold, but I think because I'm such a perfectionist that it drives me crazy when it doesn't align correctly. All right, now we're going to fold this one in. And then again, this corner flap, this comes back like our little tuxedo flap. And then again, I just make sure I'm like right on the edge, and then I kind of force it into place. And again, here I've got that little tick mark there. I'm just going to trim this, because this is where, depending on what edge of the score line you were cutting on, that's where you're getting sometimes that little jagged. So again, just kind of smidging that off a little bit. Okay. Let's trim that. All right, so now you've got your little box. And again, you can have, like I said, this flap can be on either side. It doesn't matter which way you fold it in on it. Okay, so now for the inside of the designer series paper, you can either, so I'm going to do, make sure I'm lined up here. So I've got my pattern because it's going to be continuous. Now I'm going to cut both pieces at the same time. So you want to have whatever you want for your main pattern, which I want the arrows and the hearts to be my inside. I'm going to take the second piece and I'm going to flip it upside down so that basically the opposite sides are kissing each other. So you see one on the front, one on the back. And then what you can do is you need to make this angle. So you can measure down 1 7/8 and make a mark and then cut diagonally. But because I've now tweaked this a little bit, that 1 7/8 sometimes may not be the right cut. So what I found, let's see if it'll work now. I found if I'm aligning this, I remember how I did it. I had this all the way to the top of my point, and I am right against my middle score line. I'm going to flip this over. I'm just going to cut right along. Not cutting my cardstock, but we're just cutting the, oops, I shifted my, this is where probably doing one at a time is probably better. Let's try that again. There we go. It's because I shifted a little bit. Yeah, I try to do one at a time just so that I'm not, sorry. Ah, the struggle is real today. Okay, so we're lined up right on the edge, and then we're going to flip this over and then just cut diagonally. Okay. Then take your other one. So let's see if that was 1 7/8. I just want to see. Coming down. See, it's like 1 11/16, so it's just a little off from the 1 7/8. So if you measure down 1 11/16, depending on, like I said, because I kind of trimmed that piece, that's why it wasn't aligning. So again, I'm making sure, you know, they're kissing each other. We got the front and the back showing that I want, and I'm just going to use my first one as my guide, and then finish cutting this second piece. And this one is going to be trimmed anyway because these are too big for our flap because I want a little bit more of a border. So I'm going to trim. I'm going to keep these both together. I'm going to put them face to face, and just making sure, yeah, that looks like it's good. I'm going to trim these down 1/8 of an inch. So these were like, it looks like it was about just a little under 1 3/4. So I'm going to just take off, we'll try 1 5/8 first and see what this looks like, depending on if I need to trim anything more. Yep, that'll work. So again, so I've got these as extra pieces that I can use. These are now our inside panels that line up. Yay! Now we're going to do, when we close it, we're going to do this pattern here. So again, these are the 1 3/4 by 3, and there's 2 of them. Same idea. I want my hearts showing, so I'm going to take, this is my top piece, I'm going to take my second piece, flip it around so that the insides are kissing each other, And again here, I had, when I kind of measured this on my first one, I measured down like 1 3/16. But again, I'm going to use my pattern. So knowing that this is going on, if you close your card, we're going to take this triangle flap and just tuck it in, because I need to get this angle. So I'm just going to take one of them, just because holding them together wasn't working for me for some reason. I'm going to put my top of my designer series paper right at the top of this, basically that little triangle piece, and I'm right on the edge of this, and I'm just going to turn this upside down, cut from the back side so that I'm getting that correct angle. And then I will use, so now when you go to lower that down, now you've got that even border going around. So I'm going to take my other piece, and again, we want to make sure we're kissing, because we want now this angle, when we turn this around, it'll be cutting the correct way. So turn this around so that basically you've got the insides kissing each other. And then we're going to cut, just kind of follow the line, or follow the template, or the one that you just cut, and just cut the second piece. And again, you can use your paper trimmer for this part, but we're just gonna do the scissors for now. And again, these pieces will need to, you can either trim them, or I think if I left them untrimmed, if I turn it on the back side, I think these did fit. Yeah, so if you don't trim it, these then can be used on the back side of your card, which I think, except my flowers are going upside down, but, and my hearts are. So maybe I can't do that one. Pending your pattern. Yeah, those I won't, because it's upside down. But that's okay. We'll use them for one of the other ones then. So I am going to trim these then. Most of the time you can reuse them, but again, this pattern paper, I had a direction to it. So I'm just going to take 1/8 of an inch off, just so that these will fit if I want to use them for those front triangle flaps. I can still put them on the back. I just will have a little bit more of a white border. Okay, I think that is all the cutting and scoring. So now we get to assemble it. So again, you can have the flap on either side, as long as your card is coming in like a valley, and then your tuxedo flaps are coming down as a mountain. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach my inside designer series paper first. Okay, let's see here. Way too many things on my desk. Okay. And I do want to make sure that you're getting, because these have that little point, you want to make sure that you've got whatever adhesive you're using, make sure you get up to those points so that they're not loosey-goosey. And then we will, this is the inside of the card. And like I said, if you wanted to have this go down farther, you certainly can make this this piece longer. But because I'm going to be having my brackets covering up anyway, I was like, you know, why you don't need to make it longer. And I'm just making sure I'm somewhat straight. Okay, and then we'll do the other side. And if you want, you could probably make these, like I said, these were 1 3/4. You could possibly do a little bit wider. You know, if you want a narrower border, you just take it in a 1/16 of an inch. Or, sorry, make it wider, 1/16 of an inch. But I like the wider border. Okay, now we're going to do our front. So again, we take our pieces and flip. Now we've got one goes on the right. Yeah, and this is the this is in the 2026 mini catalog. This is the Made with Love designer series paper. So kind of a good one for Valentine's Day. It's got like the flirty flamingo, the bubble bath, strawberry slush, real red, poppy parade, and pretty in pink are kind of the color combos that are in it. So some in colors and then some of our core colors. I don't know, I really like the, the little arrow and heart one. Okay, so there's that. All right, so now we've got, like I said, you've got the flaps that we cut off from our pieces. And then we also have that extra piece that I had cut, because that was kind of, I wanted a little bit more contrast. So this is my other like 1 5/8 inch square that was cut diagonally. Again, this is just option, but I was thinking I may do this one just because it's a little bit more of a contrast compared to my other, except my hearts aren't matching, so that won't work. Oh yeah, how did I cut it the wrong way, that's why. Well, I guess we'll do the pink. Yep, we'll have to do the pink because this one, that's too busy. Okay, so we'll do the pink, the flowers. Yeah, so pay attention to the direction of your paper. See, as a demonstrator, sometimes, you know, things don't always work perfectly for us either. Yeah, because this is, I mean, they're kind of going sideways, but it is what it is. It'll be fine. It'll still be a cute card. Oh yeah, you can hear Ezra upstairs. Probably the click clack of greyhound feet. Oh my gosh, it's so cold. It's like this morning, I think it was like -30 with the wind chill. That's just crazy. Too cold. Okay. Now, I also like to decorate the under flaps. You can put dimensionals on here and then keep these closed. You can totally do that as well. But I am going to, I think, do these. Let's see how. Oh yeah, that's totally upside down. Yeah, I didn't cut that very well. Doesn't matter which way I do it. So we'll just do these little arrows because it doesn't really matter on the arrows. Yeah. We'll just put these on the back underside. Yeah, I guess on my other cards I did, I didn't really have directional paper patterns that I did. And again, this is optional, doing the under, but I figured you've already got them cut. You might as well just use them up. And then it just kind of finishes the card. All right, so now there is our little, and then we'll put, you know, tear and tape here, and this is what's going to hold it. And then this is where we get our little box on it. Now, before we assemble this, I like to then put in my brackets, and then I start doing my window sheets and pop-ups because I found it was easier to do it with this open rather than messing with it while it's completely closed. So I'm going to do my brackets first. And on this, you know, I've done it where I've had the longer one on top and then the shorter one on the bottom. But I think I'm going to switch it because I know when I was messing with this one, let me look at how, yeah, that one I did. Yeah, I think I'm going to switch it. I'm going to put my longer one on the bottom and then my shorter, the shorter one on the top here. So you can do tear and tape, you can do the glue. Just knowing that the glue, you've got to let it sit for a little bit. So I'm just going to use the glue just because I have it here. So we've got your brackets, and then you're going to turn it face down, and it's going to have to come up. I don't put it right on the edge, but you are kind of centering it. Your main thing is when you go to close this, you don't want the brackets like sticking up here to see. So before I press this down really hard, I then kind of like look where my other one is going to go, and I'm perfect. I'm just right below. So I can go ahead and press this one down then. I'm just going to give it a quick little burnish. And then now that first bracket is attached on there. So it's just attached to that inside. So you can't, like, you're not going to ever close the card this way, completely closed. It's always going to be basically just squished down on it. So you're not folding the card in half ever on there. Okay, so now we're going to do our next bracket, which is a shorter one. So I'm going to put, see here, I probably would have, I would have maybe done 3/8 of an inch because a 1/2 inch is, I got a short bracket here. And then I'm going to put it above just a hair from where my other one was, and I just do a spot check just to make sure the bracket isn't above where my little V part is on my tuxedo. And then I'm just going to press that down, make sure those tabs are in place. And then when you go to give it a little squish, now you have your brackets inside. Yay, cute. Doo, doo, doo. Okay, then you're going to need your window sheets, and those, I have 3 of them. And again, these are like a 1/2 inch wide, you know, by like 5. I mean, you're going to be cutting them down, so it doesn't really, depending on what you've got. So I just went through just because I was trying to keep this one fairly simple. I'm just doing hearts as my pop-up. So I did not get the Valentine's set that was in the mini catalog, just because I have so many heart sets already from previous years. So these are just some die cuts from older sets that I'm using. And then you will need some glue dots. And I like to, when I'm putting these on the brackets, I'm actually putting it so that you're not seeing it here, it's underneath it. So you're always going to put the glue dot on top, and then it just tucks, and then you just press it so that it's on the inside of that bracket versus seeing that glue dot attached, you know, through the, where you'd see it on the front. I'm tucking it behind. So I know I want like something in the center, and so I'm going to do my larger, I was going to do a larger heart. And then I had, and I do 2 pieces, because what I do is, because you see it from behind, I wanted, you know, especially because here I colored, it's like in between, you know, like the window sheet is in between those, because I'm cutting out most of the time. Here I didn't, but on that's not a good example. Oh, here. This one, my window sheet is between these two hearts so that you don't see the glue dot, basically. Like here, so I did a front and I did a back on it. Just because I didn't want that glue dot always showing. Because on this one, I'm going to stamp, I think if we put the heart, and then you want to make sure that you're not going above that point, because this has to fit into the envelope. So as long as you are not above that point, so I'll probably put that right about there, and then I'll just stamp a little saying on there, and then I'll have this as my back. And then I've got my other ones that I'll stamp on here. So let's do our quick stamping here. And I think I was just going to do, I was just going to stamp, let's see here. So these are from, I've got the Love from Light and Wonder on there. And then I also have from the Friendly Foliage, there was a couple little nice sending love and you're on my mind and in my heart greetings. So that's where I got these from. But I'm wondering, I did that. Maybe I'll just do the sending love, and I actually will then just kind of pop that up. So I'm just going to stamp it on a little strip of white cardstock, and then I'll just trim it down to pop up on that heart. So I think for my colors, I'm pretty much basically Pretty in Bubble Bath and Flirty Flamingo. And I also brought in some of these other ones. I think it's a contrast. I think I'm going to ink it up in Poppy Parade, so that it pops. So we'll do Sending Love in the Poppy Parade. And then I'm just going to have to trim this down with some scissors. So I'm just stamping. There we go. And then I will, real quick, with my trimmer, just trim this down so it's not so wide. Using up those scraps. And then this, I can then just pop up on my heart. And I just need to find my dimensionals. Oh, I don't know where my little ones are. I've only got my black ones, but it'll have to do. Okay. Let's just see what other heart patterns I had in here. Yeah, I don't like that. Okay. We'll just put it on here. Keeping it simple. You can add some gems on there. Okay, so now let's take our, oh, I guess I could have put that on there. Oh well, it's done now. Okay, so let's take our window sheet, and I'm basically going to put some glue dots running down the center of my heart, because that's where the window sheet's gonna stick to. Okay, so I've got my window sheet, and I'm just gonna put that on. Now, you can just keep it like that, but I don't, because you see it from the back. I didn't like seeing this, so I just take another, and like I said, you can do maybe I'll do this because that'll be in the back. Yeah, I'll do that one so then it carries over the pattern. Now here, I'm going to still do a few glue dots. Now this is on the window sheet, so I'll still put a couple glue dots on that window sheet. And then I'm going to put glue here because my heart needs to attach the edges just so that it's not, so that it's adhered, not flopping around. Okay, so there's our one. Now here, depending on, because this is fairly long, I think I will put this one, it's going to be on that front bracket. Or do I want to have it here so it's a little bit more supported? So this is where you kind of, this is the futzy part of it, is like putting these things in because you're checking to see how floppy it is. I think I kind of like it down here. I want it to have a little bit of movement. And that's not too top heavy. Yeah, because if it gets too heavy, then it like, you know, falls over. So that's about, I'm still below. I'm just going to trim this down just a little bit so that I'm still fitting into my envelope. So this is where I then look at my bracket. I'm just going to trim, it's probably like what, 3/4 of an inch off with some scissors. Give or take. Yeah, it's about 3/4 of an inch. And then take your glue dots again. And I put them on the, so this is my top. I'm putting it on the top part of my window sheet. And I usually do a couple just to make sure that it's secure. So the glue dots are on my top part. This is my front. I'm putting it on that bottom bracket, and we're going to put it right in the center. And I am just looking at it. So, and then if you need to trim the window sheet, you can, if it's still too long, but that looks pretty good. Okay, so now that's attached. On the back side, you can see the glue dot, but not on the front. And then really, you know, however many you want to put in, you know, you can just go to town. So I'm going to do 2 more. And this is where, you know, again, everybody's got tons of die cuts. I'm going to, looks like I've got a white and a white. Let's see if I had, see, lots of hearts. I have so many hearts. Because I had originally cut this, but, oh, I guess I'll probably do that one. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. So I'll do that one and that one. It's just this one. I'm not a fan of this paper because I didn't really use this. But maybe it'll be okay. But I think I'm going to use some of this Floral Garden foil. This is like actually on the clearance. It's like this kind of like a strawberry slush foil, and then there was like kind of a silverish color, and then a like bubble bath with a little bit of floral imprint on it. I do kind of like this color, so I think maybe I will do this one, but this is from one of our, yeah, I think I'll do that instead of this one. And then I got this one and that one, and we'll call it good. And I got all these other little hearts too that I can use. All right, so because I like to sandwich them, we're gonna put few little glue dots on the window sheet. Probably about 3 is what I need. Get down. And we'll center our heart. And then I'm going to flip it over. And I'm just going to put one there, and then I'll put the rest of it as glue because I'm doing back to back with my hearts. And this, I just did a Poppy Parade cardstock instead of the glitter paper here. And that way you've got the front and the back kind of for your pop-up pieces decorated, just to complete it. Cute, cute, cute. Okay, and then our other one. So I put all my pieces on, and then I do the trimming of the window sheets afterwards. So we've got that one on. Flip it over. Yeah, because I've been doing so many of these. I had to actually order my glue dots off of Amazon, and they're like these weird sheets. I'm like, where's my roll? And they're a little bit bigger than the Stampin' Up! Ones, but I didn't have time to get the Stampin' Up! Ones here in time for my video, so I just had to use Amazon. Okay, and then we're going to just glue our back side of our heart on. Okay, so now that's my front. All right, so now I did one on that bottom bracket. These other ones, I'm going to do one on the top, and I'm going to lower this one so that it's a little bit shorter. So I'm going to cut right about here. And then I can always use this one if I need to. So again, this is going to be going on that top bracket. And again, I'm going to put, this is my front, I'm putting the glue dot on the front of my window sheet. And then I tuck it behind the bracket so you don't see the glue dot. Where do I want it? Over here. I got a little bit more room on this side, so I think I might put it on this one. There we go. You just kind of test it, see how it's looking. And again, if you need to adjust them, you know, since they're glue dots, I mean, you've got a little bit of wiggle room to peel it off and, you know, readjust it if need be. And then with this one, I may end up I can't go any taller. I'm just seeing if I want it on the first or the second bracket, depending on where I want it flopping around. Like I said, this is the part where this is the futzy part, because you're just playing around with the positioning of it. So I think I'm going to keep this one on the front bracket as well, because otherwise it'll get, well, maybe let's see. Let's see how it's falling. Yeah, it gets caught, so I'm going to keep this one on the front bracket as well. And we'll just go a little bit shorter than the other one. Oh, Miss Ezra, she's up there chirping away. Oh, yeah. She thinks it's dinner time. It's like not. Far from it. Okay, we're going to cut right about there. We'll put a glue dot on the front. And again, I'm just tucking it kind of behind this first bracket, or the bottom bracket, I should say. I might move it over just a little bit. And then I've got to trim this one just a little bit because I moved it down farther than what I had cut it. So just get in there and trim that off. Okay, and once you're happy, now you can also do, and I was just going to pop up some of these. I also like kind of putting sometimes a little bit of, you know, pop-ups behind on that back panel. So you can certainly do that as well. So let's do a, let's see here, I've got some of these other hearts that I had punched out. I think I'll do one of these. And this, I mean, you don't have to, I just, and you can also put a few of them on the window sheets themselves too, if you wanted to. But I'm thinking I may just put another one, just so you can see some more hearts. We'll put one there, and I think I'm going to pop up this one as well onto my other heart that I had on here. Hearts, hearts, hearts. I mean, this is kind of like, I don't know, this is the fun part, is all the little decorating. And I think this one I'll probably pop up as well on the back. Let's see, I need to keep it on the one side because I'm going to have this overhanging a little bit. All right, so now let's go ahead and we're going to put a little bit of tear and tape on here. You can do the glue if you want as well. But the tear and tape is fairly strong, so that'll keep this tab closed. And I like to do just a couple of pieces just because it's a little bit wider than what my tear and tape is. All right, so then keeping it closed, you'll just bring that in. Oops, my bracket got a little, oh, there we go. Just had to tuck it. It got smushed on there. So yeah, there's your little bucket of hearts. So I think, you know, because I've got this little dead space here on that window sheet, I am going to add another little heart. And then really for the front of the card, you know, you can do a bow, you know, you can just leave it as is. You can also, like I did on this one, I put a saying and I just made a bracket that it, you know, sits on, so that when you open it, it pops out. So that's another way of doing it. And that, all you really need to do is, it just needs to be, you know, like, I don't know, what did I do? Like 2, it could just be like 1 inch, and then you just fold it in half, probably, yeah, or like 1 3/4 and fold it in half and just cut 2 of them. And then you just basically, one goes on the other side, you know, like an L, and then, so the glue is going to be attached there, and then the other side is attached to the back side of your, whatever greeting you're using on there. That's, you know, another thing to do as well. But I don't have a, let's see, I don't know if I've got, I don't really have a good saying that I have really handy right now, so we're just going to leave it. I'm actually going to do a ribbon, because I need to use up ribbon. So we are going to do, we have the coral and this like bubble bath. What do I have for pinks? I'm not sure if my pink I have is the right pink. Oh yeah, that'll work. Use up the ribbon that I have so much of. All right, so we're just gonna make a bow. Oh, got it glued out on my finger. There we go. Yeah, and if you're not a bow person, then you can do a die cut, you know, whatever you want. Like I said, you can do the sayings. But I am just trying to use up ribbon that I have so much of. I have a wall of ribbon. Okay, and then we'll just glue dot that bad boy on. Got too many things on my desk right now. So I'm just going to put it right in that center part. And again, if you want, you know, you can put little gems on your corners. You can, you know, just leave it as is. But yeah, that looks pretty darn cute. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, and then we're going to do our back to finish off the card. Cover these up before I have a glue dot on me. Unless I don't like these sheets. Okay. So we're going to do, this is from the mini catalog. This is the Happy Valentine's or Valentine's Day. So it's just one stamp that's in there. And I'm going to stamp this in. I think probably... Yeah, I think we'll just stamp it in. We'll just do the Flirty Flamingo. So on my two-tone cardstock, this is, I believe, the bubble bath. Yeah, this is the bubble bath. So this is my back piece. And again, if you wanted to trim this, so it's 2 pieces, you can certainly do that. Because I want my saying on there, I kept it as 1 piece. So I'm going to stamp it first, and then I'm going to put in my score line so that it folds in half easier. And if you're not going to add like a layer, if you're going to actually stamp on the back of this, do that first before you put in your pop-up pieces and your bracket, because now, you know, you've got all this bulk and you wouldn't be able to stamp on that directly very well. I mean, it would not look pretty. So the longer edge, what did I just muck on there? I don't know what that was. Okay, so this is the Flirty Flamingo. Stamp somewhat straight. Perfect. And then stay tuned. I'm going to show you a little tip on cleaning those photopolymers and also like your brushes and stuff. I found this weekend when I was kind of cleaning, a little tip on to get some of that. It doesn't take all the ink off, but it takes a good chunk of it off. Because whenever you use red dyes, it always makes your stamps hot pink on it. Okay, so now I need to put my score line in. And so I believe I just need to be 1 7/8. So I'm on the 3 3/4 inch side. I flipped it over because I'm scoring. I want my fold going the opposite way. So we're going to score right at 1 7/8. And then, otherwise you could just fold it in half. I mean, that works too. Okay, now you can go ahead and attach this to the back side of your card. I was just seeing if I had any other little triangles that could still fit in there to decorate my top, but I don't think I do. Because, yeah, these were still... Oh, I guess that could work. Well, no, because this one is going the opposite way. Yeah, my hearts are going the... I cut it the wrong way. So we'll just let it be. I may decorate. I may put some other little hearts here later. All right, and then just to finish this off, because I got to have some bling on, a little bit more bling on here, I think I do want to add a couple little gems. I'm just looking for my problem is now I got way too many things on my desk. Where did it go? I just had my, oh, here it is. I'm like, I just had my pick tool. Wait, no, this isn't the right one. Oh, I hate it when I can't find stuff. It's probably like right in front of me. Oh well, we'll just have to use this. Okay, I just want to do, okay, maybe just add some of these pink. Do one there, and just to jazz it up just a little bit. Okay, so there is the Tuxedo Box A2 size that now fits into your regular size envelopes. Cute. Look at that. Yay. All right, so I will, like I said, I will put my template in it, and I will also list out all the dimensions for the papers, and if you, like I said, I do have the little bit larger, the A4 one, already posted there as well, but when I go to actually type up my instructions, it will just be for the A2 size on it, just because I know most of you, that's the size card that you're using for the majority of the time if you don't have the larger envelopes on it. All right, so I'm going to show you just another little, so real quick, isn't that fun? Yay! Just a little tip on cleaning your stamps with some Dawn Power Wash. I found worked really slick. And you can also, let me grab some of my brushes here. Let me get a really dirty one. Here we go. You get your red one. What I found, so to have a little bit of water, the Dawn Power Wash, it's like a little pump, and I'm using, so if you have our glass mat, you know, it comes with this little rubber kind of tray, and this is kind of gritty. It's got a little bit of a texture to it. You know, have something like that, you know, because that's what you're kind of using to help get that ink and stuff off of your brush. But what I found is if you just spray, you know, some of the Dawn Power Wash on here, and then you can add a little bit of water. I just have a little bowl of water here. Just do a little spray there, and then get an old toothbrush. And what I found was, you know, you can give a good scrub on your photopolymer stamps. This is also, I found it really helped make them sticky again. So if you've got some that are not very tacky anymore, this was a great way of cleaning those. Now, like I said, it doesn't take all the ink off, but it really, look, there's already pink on there. It's taking some of that ink off. Not all of it, but it takes a good majority of it off. And then it really cleans your stamp too. Okay. Now you can also, like I said, if you can do the toothbrush, or like I said, if you've got this little grippy thing, you can do the same thing on here, you know, because it's getting into those grooves and stuff. But again, like I said, using an old toothbrush, I found worked really, really well. And then again, you can just rinse this off. I'm just got my chamois. Oh my God, look, I bleached it. It's so ugly looking. And this thing is so, I need to order a new one. It's so dirty. I was like, oh, it's just so gross looking. I'm just like, I'm just going to bleach it. I don't care. But yeah, I do need to order a new one. And like I said, then just take, and again, this is just another little kind of a chamois. I just got these off of Amazon. But look at that. Pretty darn cool. I mean, it's still a little pink, but not as pink as it was before. Pretty darn cool. I found that out myself. I was like so proud of myself. I'm like, look at me. But it also is really great, like I said, for your brushes. So again, you know, just give it a little bit of squeeze with your power wash, add a little water. And then now here, because I've got that little gripper thing, I'm just going to use this. Now I might get a little bit of wet here because this is pretty dry. Here we go. And using this to kind of help get some of that ink off my brush. And again, these then I would actually rinse out underneath the sink to get all that soap and stuff off of there. But already, look at that. What a difference. Huge difference. So yeah, get yourself some Dawn Power Wash and some water and buy our glass mat and get a little grippy pad on it. But anyway, just a little cleaning tip for you. And then again, just rinse this out underneath the sink to get all that soap and stuff off of there. But so that's my little cleaning tip for the day for you. Anyway, thanks again for joining me today and for learning how to do the Tuxedo Box Card. And then I will work on, I think I had another challenge. It was like an inside, kind of like an inside pop-up box fun fold. I can't remember now what I did with the card. Oh wait, here it is. I think it is this one. Oh yeah. This will be my next one that I will do a tutorial on. I can't remember the name of what I'm going to call it. But, you know, it's basically normal front. But when you open it, you then have this little pop-up column that comes down. So that you've got a little 3D kind of display piece for your card. So it's kind of a fun, because it just basically, it folds flat. But then you just have to kind of shape it, and then it's like it'll stand up. I just can't remember what it's called. Inside pop-up boxes, pop-up boxes. But it'd be really cute, I think, if you did, you know, like for birthdays, it'd be really cute if you had like the little, make this into a birthday cake with some little candles on it. I think that would be kind of a cute idea. So I've got that, and then I think I'm going to do some techniques with some of the embossing folders, and because this is that new what is it, Rock and Vine or something like that, kind of showing you how I did some of these background, kind of like the blackout techniques and some other embossing folder ideas. So so it's taking sometimes a little bit of break from the fun folds. But anyway, thanks again for joining me today. Have a great and creative day, and I will stamp again with you soon. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.